Welcome back to our channel Rare Coins Hub. In today's video, we're going to explore something really interesting and exciting. Stay with us and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. The 1957 USA 5-cent coin, commonly known as the Jefferson Nickel, holds a significant place in American numismatic history. While the coin itself may seem like a simple and unassuming piece of currency, its design, historical context, and collector's appeal make it a fascinating subject. In fact, this coin can now fetch remarkable sums, reaching values as high as $172,000 in exceptional circumstances. Let's take a deep dive into the rich story behind the 1957 nickel, examining its origins, design evolution, and why it remains a coveted piece for collectors today. To fully appreciate the 1957 Jefferson nickel, we must first understand the historical backdrop in which it was minted. The United States in 1957 was a nation in transition, experiencing the post-World War II economic boom, the rise of suburban living, and the Cold War tensions that dominated global politics. The year marked a time when America was solidifying its role as a global superpower, with an economy that was rapidly industrializing and modernizing. This environment had an undeniable impact on the designs and values of U.S. coins, as well as the general public's engagement with money. The nickel, in particular, holds a prominent place in American currency. It was first authorized by the Coinage Act of 1792 and has undergone numerous design changes over the centuries. The Jefferson Nickel, first introduced in 1938, was designed by Felix Schlag, a German-born sculptor, and replaced the Buffalo nickel. By 1957, the design had already been in circulation for nearly 2 decades, making it one of the most enduring and recognizable coins in the country. The obverse of the 1957 nickel features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, who is best known for authoring the Declaration of Independence and leading the nation through the early years of its independence. Jefferson's image has been prominently displayed on the nickel since the coin's debut in 1938. In the 1957 version, the profile of Jefferson appears to the left, with his name, Jefferson, inscribed above his head. The inscription, "In God We Trust," appears to the right, and the year of minting, 1957, is placed below his likeness. The overall design exudes a sense of dignified simplicity, making it a powerful representation of Jefferson's legacy in his ideals of liberty and democracy. The reverse of the 1957 nickel features an image of Jefferson's estate, Monticello, a neoclassical-style house in Virginia where Jefferson spent much of his later life. The building is shown in a side view, with Monticello inscribed above it and the words E pluribus unum, out of many, one, and 5 cents below. The Monticello design is not only symbolic of Jefferson's personal connection to the land and his contributions to the nation but also reflects the country's growing sense of pride in its historic landmarks and heritage. This reverse design would remain in place until 2004, when the U.S. Mint introduced new designs for the nickel. When it comes to the 1957 Jefferson nickel, one of the most intriguing aspects is the minting process. This coin was produced during a time of high production in U.S. coinage, as the country's economic growth was in full swing. The 1957 nickel was minted at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, with each mint marking the coins with a distinct mint mark, no mint mark for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. The 1957 Denver minted nickel, in particular, became one of the most sought-after versions due to a unique minting error that occurred during its production. Some 1957 D nickels were mistakenly struck with an issue that has since become a key aspect of their appeal in the world of coin collecting. These coins exhibit a phenomenon known as die polishing or over-polishing, which can cause certain details to appear soft or worn out. This error, though subtle, adds a layer of rarity to the 1957 D nickels, and collectors have long been on the lookout for specimens with these unique characteristics. In some rare cases, this over-polishing has led to nickels that feature unusual double dies, adding even more value and intrigue to the coin. In addition to the fascinating minting details, it's important to consider the broader appeal of the 1957 Jefferson nickel among collectors. As with any coin, rarity plays a critical role in determining its value. While millions of 1957 nickels were minted, the presence of minting errors or coins in exceptional condition can dramatically increase their worth. A nickel in uncirculated or mint state condition, free from significant wear and tear, is especially prized. For example, a 1957D nickel in near mint or gem mint condition can fetch prices that exceed $1,000, depending on the quality and the demand within the market. However, the truly remarkable value of the 1957 nickel lies in a small subset of coins that have achieved legendary status among collectors. One of these examples is the 1957D nickel that was discovered with an unusual double die error, a coin that has become one of the most coveted and rarest examples of the Jefferson nickel series. Coins with this error are extremely difficult to find, and when they are graded in perfect condition, they can command prices upwards of $172,000 at auction. This makes the 1957 Jefferson nickel not just a piece of history, but a true numismatic treasure. The impressive value of these rare coins can be attributed to several factors. First, there is the inherent rarity of the coin. Coins with minting errors are, by definition, less common than their counterparts, and the more significant the error, the rarer the coin. This rarity increases demand, especially among serious collectors who specialize in error coins. Second, the quality of the coin plays a vital role. Coins in perfect condition, especially those that have been professionally graded by reputable agencies like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, are in higher demand than those with noticeable wear. In the case of the 1957D nickel, the most valuable coins are often those that have remained in pristine condition, stored carefully over the years. Coins that have been properly preserved, kept in protective cases and shielded from exposure to environmental elements, are the ones that command the highest prices in today's market. When collectors or investors find a coin like the 1957D with its signature minting error and it's in top-tier condition, the potential for a significant return on investment becomes very real. So, what makes the 1957D Jefferson nickel so special? To start, it represents a pivotal point in U.S. coinage history, as the design of the nickel would remain unchanged for decades. The coin itself carries a powerful image of one of America's most important historical figures, Thomas Jefferson, whose ideals of democracy, freedom, and equality continue to shape the nation. Additionally, the rare minting errors, such as the overpolishing and double die, add a layer of intrigue that makes the 1957 nickel a highly desirable collectible for collectors. Finding a well-preserved 1957 nickel can feel like discovering a hidden treasure. As the world of numismatics continues to grow, the demand for high-quality, rare coins like the 1957D Jefferson nickel will likely continue to rise. It serves as a reminder that the most seemingly ordinary coins can, over time, become extraordinary pieces of history, valued not only for their rarity and condition but also for the unique stories they tell. If you happen to come across a 1957 nickel in your collection, it's worth taking a moment to inspect it closely. While most of the coins from this year may not be worth a fortune, you could be holding on to a hidden gem, especially if you have one of the rare varieties or minting errors. As with any valuable coin, it's advisable to have it professionally graded to determine its true worth. If you do, you might just be holding on to a piece of history that could be worth $172,000, or even more. In conclusion, the 1957 Jefferson nickel is much more than just a piece of currency. It is a symbol of American history, artistry, and craftsmanship. Its timeless design, paired with the intriguing minting errors and rarity, ensures that it will remain a sought-after collectible for years to come. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or someone who has just begun exploring the world of numismatics, the 1957 nickel is a reminder of how small details in history can lead to significant value in the world of collectibles. In 1960, the United States was in the midst of a transformative decade. The country was experiencing a period of change, with the Cold War looming in the background and a rising cultural shift that would define the coming years. Amidst these changes, an unassuming piece of currency was circulating in the pockets of everyday Americans, the 1965-cent coin. To the casual observer, this nickel seemed like just another coin. But as we're about to dive into, this little piece of history holds much more than meets the eye. The 1960 nickel stands out not only because of its history, but also due to the specific events of that year and how they left their imprint on U.S. currency. To understand why this seemingly ordinary coin is anything but ordinary, we must first take a journey back to its origins, explore the changes in its design, and uncover why it has captured the interest of coin collectors around the world. Let's start with the coin's history. The 5-cent piece, or nickel, has been a part of American currency since 1866. However, it wasn't until the early 20th century that the nickel gained widespread recognition. The 1960 version of the coin was not much different from its predecessors at first glance. It featured the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1938. However, there was something subtly different about the 1960 nickel compared to other years of production. It's important to understand that the U.S. Mint had already been making subtle design adjustments to various coins in the 1950s and 1960s. This was a time of transition for the Mint, with changes in both the materials used in the coins and the way they were produced. The United States was experiencing inflation and economic pressure, and these factors influenced how the Mint approached its coinage production. While the design of the 1965-cent coin remained largely unchanged, there were small yet significant alterations to the production process that would later make the 1960 nickel highly sought after. Now, let's take a look at the design itself. The obverse of the 1960 nickel showcases a right-facing bust of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States. Jefferson's portrait, based on a 1800 painting by artist Rembrandt Peale, had become one of the most recognizable designs in U.S. coinage history. Jefferson's profile, with his distinctive features and flowing hair, gazes off into the distance, embodying the ideals of democracy and freedom that he championed during his lifetime. On the reverse of the coin, we see a depiction of Jefferson's home, Monticello. This design had been in use since 1938 and is a symbol of Jefferson's legacy, representing the ideals of liberty and independence that shaped the early years of the nation. Monticello, located in Virginia, was not only Jefferson's home but also a representation of his personal philosophy, his deep connection to the land, and his vision for the future of the United States. At first glance, the design of the 1960 nickel might seem like a simple continuation of the past, but the coin story doesn't end there. What made the 1960 version of the nickel unique was the subtle differences in its minting process, particularly the way the coins were struck. 1960 was a year when the U.S. Mint was beginning to experiment with new methods to increase efficiency and reduce production costs. In this period, the Mint made use of new technology, which, combined with the natural wear and tear on coin dies, produced a few interesting results. The production of the 1960 nickel involved a new form of die that had a more delicate strike compared to previous years. This produced a coin with a distinct, slightly weaker strike than other years, meaning that some coins from this year were not struck as crisply as their predecessors. At the same time, the Mint had been experiencing a shortage of copper and nickel, which were the primary metals used in the production of the 5-cent coin. This shortage led to a slight change in the alloy composition of the coin, which resulted in variations in color and appearance. These variations, combined with the imperfections in the strike, made the 1960 nickel stand out to keen-eyed collectors. For most casual observers, this would have gone unnoticed. After all, coins were often used in transactions and circulated rapidly. The idea that a single coin could be special or unique didn't occur to the average person. But to numismatists, the seemingly subtle differences were significant. Coin collectors began to take notice, and the 1960 nickel was soon added to the list of coins that were worth keeping an eye on. but the real twist in the tale comes when we turn our attention to a particular variety of the 1960 nickel, the 1960 D small date nickel. This specific version of the coin, struck at the Denver Mint, became a rarity because of a die variety that emerged. In 1960, the U.S. Mint struck two different types of the same coin, the large date and the small date. The large date variety had the numbers in the date stamped in a larger font, while the small date variety had smaller numbers, making it stand out in the world of coin collectors. The small date nickel quickly became a highly sought-after coin, thanks to its distinctive appearance and rarity. Now, let's talk about the minting process and how this rare variety came to be. The 1960 D small date nickel was produced at the Denver Mint, and it was one of the coins that suffered from the weak die strike I mentioned earlier. As a result, some of these coins exhibit a softer strike than their counterparts, which adds to their rarity and collector value. This die variety has captured the imagination of coin enthusiasts because it's a perfect example of how something so seemingly insignificant, a small date, could lead to a coin that is highly desirable and valuable in the eyes of collectors. But why has this coin remained so fascinating to numismatists over the decades? The answer lies in its combination of rarity, history, and the quirks of its production process. The 1960 D small date nickel represents a moment in time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning its production techniques and experimenting with new technology. The flaws and variations in the coins that resulted from this experimentation have created a niche within the world of coin collecting, where enthusiasts continue to seek out rare examples of this unique coin. Today, the 1960 D small date nickel is considered one of the most valuable coins from the 20th century, and it has earned a special place in the hearts of collectors. The appeal of this coin is not just about its rarity, but also about the story it tells. The 1960 nickel represents a fascinating intersection of history, design, and the ever-evolving world of coin production. So, what is the current value of the 1960 D small date nickel? You might be surprised to learn that these coins can fetch incredible prices at auction. While the value of a typical 1960 nickel might be just a few cents, the small date variety can sell for thousands of dollars. In fact, depending on the condition of the coin, a well-preserved 1960 D small date nickel can be worth up to $160,000 today. Yes, you heard that right, $160,000. This impressive value can be attributed to a number of factors. First, the coin's rarity plays a huge role. Fewer than 100 examples of the 1960 D small date nickel are believed to exist in near-perfect condition, making them incredibly difficult to find. Second, the historical significance of the coin and its association with the shifting practices of the U.S. Mint during a time of change only adds to its allure. Finally, the scarcity of these coins, coupled with their unique die variety, makes them highly coveted by collectors around the world. To put it into perspective, the 1960 D small date nickel has become one of the most valuable coins in the United States. Its incredible value, combined with its historical and numismatic importance, has cemented its place as a treasure for coin collectors. In conclusion, the 1965-cent coin may appear unassuming at first glance, but it holds a rich and fascinating history. From its subtle design changes to the unique production quirks that created its rarity, the 1960 D small date nickel continues to capture the imagination of collectors. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or someone just beginning to explore the world of coin collecting, this little nickel represents a rare opportunity to own a piece of American history. As we wrap up this deep dive into the 1965-cent coin, we can truly appreciate how something as small as a nickel can hold so much value. It's a reminder that history often hides in the most unexpected places, and that a coin from the past can become a treasure for the future. So, if you ever find a 1960 D small date nickel in your pocket, take a moment to appreciate its history, and remember that it could be worth much more than just 5 cents. In the early 1960s, America was a country at the crossroads of change. The world was on the brink of a new decade, and the winds of transformation were sweeping across the nation. Civil rights movements were gaining momentum, the space race was taking off, and the cultural fabric of the country was beginning to shift. Amid all of this, a seemingly ordinary coin circulated in the pockets of Americans, traveling between transactions without much thought. This coin was the 1964 5-cent piece, better known as the nickel. At first glance, the 1964 nickel doesn't look much different from any other coin you might find today. After all, it's just a simple 5-cent piece, right? Well, the truth is that this humble coin is far more fascinating than it seems. The 1964 nickel is more than just a piece of currency, it's a relic from a pivotal moment in history, a representation of America at a time of cultural upheaval, and, as we'll discover, a treasure in the world of coin collecting. So, let's take a closer look at the 1964 nickel and uncover why this little coin is so much more than just 5 cents. To understand the significance of the 1964 nickel, we need to go back a bit in time and look at the broader context. The nickel, in its current form, had been in circulation for decades before 1964. Its design had undergone changes over the years, but by the time 1964 rolled around, the coin had settled into a relatively familiar look. The coin's obverse featured the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States. Jefferson's portrait, which was based on a painting by Rembrandt Peale, had been in use on the nickel since 1938. This was a design that had become synonymous with American history, symbolizing Jefferson's ideals of liberty, democracy, and the American Revolution. On the reverse side, the coin showcased an image of Monticello, Jefferson's home in Virginia. Monticello, which was also a symbol of Jefferson's legacy and his vision for the United States, had been featured on the reverse of the nickel since the coin's design changes in 1938. It was a design that reflected Jefferson's personal connection to the land, as well as his deep-rooted beliefs in the agrarian ideals of the early republic. The 1964 5-cent coin was, at its core, an extension of this long-standing design tradition. But what set the 1964 nickel apart was the context in which it was produced. The U.S. Mint was experiencing a period of great uncertainty, both in terms of the economy and the material used in coin production. The country had been dealing with inflationary pressures, and there was a growing need to adjust the composition of coins to reflect changing economic conditions. In 1964, the U.S. Mint made a decision that would affect all coinage, not just the 5-cent piece. They made the shift from using 90% silver in the production of dimes, quarters, and half dollars to a more affordable copper-nickel alloy. This decision was driven by rising silver prices and a desire to make coinage production more cost-effective. The result was that many coins, including the nickel, were struck from a combination of copper and nickel, rather than using a higher percentage of silver as in previous years. This shift in the coin's composition, while largely unnoticed by the public, would play a crucial role in the legacy of the 1964 nickel. The 1964 coin was part of a transition period in U.S. coinage, marking the end of an era of silver-based coins and the beginning of a new age of more economical, durable currency. This change also meant that the 1964 nickel would be one of the last to carry the familiar 90% silver composition that had been so common in the U.S. Mint's coinage before that year. When we look closely at the production of the 1964 5-cent coin, we also see that there were certain subtleties in how it was minted. The U.S. Mint produced millions of these coins that year, as was typical with nickels. However, what sets the 1964 coin apart in the eyes of collectors is the particular characteristics of the minting process. The minting of 1964 coins occurred during a time when the U.S. Mint was making adjustments to the way coins were struck, especially with the adoption of new dies and the increase in production efficiency. The 1964 nickel was struck with these new dies that sometimes resulted in slight variations in the appearance of the coin. These subtle variations could be seen in things like the sharpness of the strike, the positioning of the design elements, or even the quality of the coin's finish. Some of these factors could make certain 1964 nickels more desirable to collectors, particularly those that were struck with high-quality dies or those that retained a sharp, clean strike, but what really makes the 1964 nickel stand out in the numismatic world is its rarity in certain conditions. While the 1964 nickel was widely circulated and produced in vast quantities, not all examples of the coin are created equal. Over time, some of these coins have been preserved in pristine condition, with virtually no wear or damage to the design. These coins are highly coveted by collectors, who are always on the lookout for well-preserved specimens of coins from this era. The highest-grade examples of the 1964 nickel can fetch substantial sums at auction, and some have become rare finds that collectors will pay top dollar for. One of the primary reasons the 1964 nickel has captured the attention of collectors is because of its association with a pivotal moment in U.S. history. The 1964 nickel represents the end of an era in coinage production, marking the last time that silver was used in a significant way in U.S. coins. For many collectors, owning a 1964 nickel feels like holding a piece of history, one that symbolizes a shift in the way the United States handled its currency and its precious metals. Now, let's talk about the impressive value of the 1964 nickel. While most 1964 nickels are worth just a few cents, depending on their condition, there are certain examples of this coin that have sold for extraordinary sums at auction. The key to their value lies in their rarity and condition. Coins that are graded in mint state or near mint state, those with minimal wear and tear, are the most valuable. Additionally, coins that were struck in higher quality dies or those that show less wear are more highly sought after by collectors, but the real surprise comes when we talk about the value of a rare, high-grade 1964 nickel. In recent years, a well-preserved example of this coin has fetched prices as high as $142,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right, $142,000 for a single 5-cent coin from 1964. The reason for this astronomical value is the rarity of these coins in pristine condition. As fewer and fewer of these coins remain in such excellent shape, the demand among collectors continues to drive prices higher. Coins that are deemed to be in mint state or MS condition, essentially coins that appear as if they were just struck, can command prices that would make even seasoned numismatists take notice. The combination of rarity, historical significance, and collector interest has transformed the 1964 nickel from a simple piece of currency into a highly valuable collectible. For those who are lucky enough to come across a well-preserved 1964 nickel, the potential for a big payoff is real. The 1964 nickel, in its best condition, is no longer just a piece of change, it's a true numismatic treasure, and for collectors, it represents an investment in history and a tangible connection to the past. As we conclude our exploration of the 1964 5-cent coin, we can appreciate just how much value lies in this simple coin. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a newcomer to the world of numismatics, the 1964 nickel is a reminder of how history, design, and rare occurrences can combine to create something truly valuable. So, the next time you come across a 1964 nickel in your pocket, take a moment to consider the history it represents, and just how much it might be worth. The 1965 USA 5-cent coin, commonly known as the nickel, holds a significant place in American numismatic history. With its striking design, it stands as both a testament to the era in which it was produced and a valuable collectible today. For many coin collectors, the 1965 nickel is a piece of history that tells a much bigger story, one that goes beyond its face value of just 5 cents. In this video, we'll delve deep into the fascinating history of the 1965 nickel, exploring everything from the events leading up to its minting, the design choices behind it, the changes in the minting process, and, most importantly, why this coin can now be worth a staggering $136,000. So, buckle up as we go on a journey through time to uncover the story behind one of America's most intriguing coins. The 1965 5-cent coin was minted during a time of great change in the United States. The mid-1960s were marked by social upheaval, the civil rights movement, and the space race. The country was undergoing a period of significant transformation, and this would inevitably influence the production of its currency. For coin collectors, the year 1965 holds particular importance because it marked the end of an era for American coinage. Prior to this time, the United States had been producing coins primarily composed of silver, but in 1965, a dramatic change occurred. It was in 1965 that the United States government made the decision to eliminate silver from its coinage due to the rising cost of the precious metal. In response to a nationwide shortage of silver and the economic strain it caused, the U.S. Treasury decided to switch to a new copper-nickel alloy for most of its coins. The change was especially significant for coins like the dime, quarter, and half-dollar, but it also had an impact on the 5-cent piece, the nickel. While the 1965 nickel retained its classic design, it was the beginning of a larger shift in American coinage. This marked the end of the era of silver coins, and a new chapter in the history of U.S. currency was born. The coin we're focusing on today, the 1965 5-cent piece, is particularly intriguing for collectors because it's part of a series of coins that were minted during this transformative period in American history. It represents a significant turning point for U.S. currency, and for many, it embodies the changing nature of American society during the 1960s. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1965 nickel. The obverse of the coin, or the front, features a portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States. This design, which was created by renowned artist Felix Schlag, had been in use since 1938. Jefferson's image is depicted in profile, with the inscription, Liberty, above his head and the year of minting, 1965, below it. Jefferson's likeness is one of the most enduring symbols of American democracy and serves as a reminder of the nation's founding principles. On the reverse side of the coin, we see the image of Jefferson's home, Monticello, in Virginia. This design has also remained largely unchanged since its introduction in 1938. Monticello is depicted in great detail, with the building and its surrounding grounds beautifully etched onto the coin's surface. Above the building, the inscription, E pluribus unum, appears, and below it, we see, United States of America, and the denomination, 5 cents. This reverse design has become one of the most iconic images in American coinage, and it reflects Jefferson's deep connection to the country's history and his legacy as a statesman and architect. While the design of the 1965 nickel may appear similar to that of previous years, there's a subtle but significant detail that sets this particular coin apart from others minted in the same year. The 1965 nickel, along with other coins minted during this period, was struck using a new alloy, a blend of copper and nickel, which gives it a distinct appearance and feel compared to older coins that were made of silver. This change in composition would go unnoticed by many at first glance, but it's a key detail for collectors who are familiar with the subtle differences in metal composition between coins of various eras. Speaking of metal composition, let's dive a bit deeper into the technical aspects of the 1965 nickel. This coin is made from an alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a composition that is still used for the 5-cent piece today. However, the change in 1965 was more than just a shift in the materials used. The new alloy, along with adjustments to the minting process, affected the way the coin was struck. Coins from this era have a slightly different feel and sound compared to earlier coins, which were made of 90% silver. The 1965 nickel, in particular, has a somewhat duller appearance, lacking the bright sheen that silver coins typically had. The minting process for the 1965 nickel was also significant for another reason. In response to the national silver shortage, the U.S. Treasury ramped up coin production to meet the demand for circulating currency. As a result, the 1965 nickel was produced in massive quantities, with hundreds of millions of these coins being struck that year alone. This high volume of production, combined with the fact that the coin was produced in a period of significant historical change, means that the 1965 nickel is a highly sought-after coin for collectors, despite the fact that most of the coins produced in this year are not particularly rare. However, there's one crucial detail that sets some 1965 nickels apart from the others, a rare variety known as the 1965 Double Die Nickel. This era coin features a noticeable doubling of the inscriptions on the obverse side of the coin, particularly in the word Liberty and the year 1965. This mistake occurred during the minting process when the die used to strike the coins was misaligned, resulting in a doubling effect on the design. While most 1965 nickels are relatively common, this particular variety is much more scarce and has become highly coveted by collectors. The value of a regular 1965 nickel is relatively modest. Most of the coins minted that year can be found in circulation or in coin rolls at a low price, often just a few cents above face value. However, the 1965 double die nickel is an entirely different story. As is often the case with rare era coins, the value of a 1965 double die nickel can skyrocket, and these coins have been known to sell for thousands of dollars in auctions. One of the most incredible aspects of the 1965 nickel is the fact that certain specimens have sold for jaw-dropping amounts. While most 1965 nickels are worth only a few cents, some rare examples have fetched prices of up to $136,000 at auction. The 1965 double die nickel, with its distinctive era and rarity, has become a coveted prize for serious collectors and investors alike. The allure of owning a piece of history, one that's both rare and valuable, has led to fierce competition in the numismatic community, with some collectors paying astronomical sums to add this coin to their collection. The story of the 1965 nickel is a remarkable one, illustrating the intersection of history, art, and economics. It's a coin that reflects a pivotal moment in American history, and its value has only grown as time has passed. From its origins during a time of economic change to its place in the world of numismatics today, the 1965 5-cent coin is a symbol of both the past and the present, a reminder of the power of coins to tell stories and preserve history. As we look back on the 1965 nickel, we realize that it's more than just a piece of currency. It's a piece of American history, a link to a time of transformation and innovation. And while most of the coins produced that year are worth only a few cents, the rare 1965 double die nickel stands as a testament to the value of era coins, and the incredible potential they hold for collectors. For those lucky enough to own one, it's a coin that's not only worth its weight in nickel but could also be worth a life-changing amount of money. The lesson here is clear: not all coins are created equal. While the 1965 nickel might look like just another piece of change to most people, to those with a discerning eye, it's a treasure waiting to be discovered. The history, the design, and the potential value of this coin make it a fascinating subject for collectors and history enthusiasts alike. And for those fortunate enough to come across a 1965 double die nickel, the payoff can be truly extraordinary. At $136,000, this coin is not just a piece of currency, it's a rare gem that embodies the magic of numismatics, where history, rarity, and value converge in the most unexpected ways. So, the next time you come across a 1965 nickel, take a moment to appreciate its history and consider the possibility that it could be worth far more than its face value. You never know what treasures are hiding in plain sight, and with coins like the 1965 double die nickel, sometimes the real value is only discovered years after the coin has left the mint. The 1965 nickel may have been just another coin in circulation when it was first struck, but today, it's a prized collectible that represents a unique moment in American history, one that has captivated collectors for decades. And who knows? Maybe you'll be the lucky one to find the next 1965 double die nickel and add it to your collection for an incredible price. In conclusion, the 1965 5-cent coin is much more than just a piece of currency. It's a snapshot of an era, a reminder of the country's history, and a potential goldmine for coin collectors. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or a casual collector, the story of the 1965 nickel is one that demonstrates the fascinating world of coins and their potential to surprise, delight, and even change lives.